Oh yeah, so Dave, you had the brainchild for this gig then, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. I think I've actually got the flu.
Oh, okay. Is
Yeah.
that is that relevant to the story? Or?
Um. Well, it depends how recent. No. Um. We asked them to play a gig.
Right.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Um,
The flues can really get you, can't it?
all right, is someone else want to take that question? Like, how did this come to be?
I mean,
I think,
like, go. Sorry, go. No, go for it, guys. Yeah.
anyway, I think it started when Dave got the flu. Sorry, go on, Jason.
No, I was just going to say, like, we were just kind of like minding our own business, trying to work out what was going on, just in general, and then we got a message from Dave, just saying, just offering us a slot. He said, we're playing a show. Do you fancy doing something? And we weren't even thinking about playing any shows, and but that kind of sowed the seed for us a little bit. It was like, oh, it could be quite nice to not only just play a show, but do it with bands and artists, musicians who were like from that era, just to kind of, so we didn't feel too out of sorts. And so, because we played with Dustin's back in the day, and obviously this is like 20 years ago, so times change, people change, but sometimes the more things change, the more they stay the same. So when you got like enough, I think we've got like a critical mass of bands from that era, which makes it feel like that night might be a little bit of I don't know, a little bit of a taste of kind of what those nights would have been like, except everyone's probably a bit more
Oh,
prone to the flu now. Yeah, older.
yeah.
So that's how it worked out for us. But I mean, yeah, for Ross and Rob, I'm not sure. I'm not. I don't know how they ended up getting embroiled in this mess.
Well, Rob's the guitarist, so he just does what I tell him to do. Um. Um. Ross. I just asked him because I've always liked Mardous.
I think what's happening just now is we're obviously all the same the same musical generation, and I suppose there's quite a lot of that 20 years thing going on, isn't there? So I think a lot of bands have decided that it's kind of mark that anniversary or don't, and if you do, then you start sort of looking around and seeing what other bands are doing that you knew from that era, and obviously I've been to see Dustin's when they played in London, and that was great. And I think I met Dave briefly on that night. I think you were sort of going, Dave, and I was just arriving like at the end of the gig or whatever. But I think we just been chatting about, haven't we, Dave, like on socials here and there and stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's weird. I hadn't really thought about it before, but it kind of like um you get like kind of 20-year periods after initial music scenes where almost exactly 20 years later a load of bands reform. It's because if you think about it, it's I think the Sex Pistols first reformed in 1996, and then you had a load of other punk bands who kind of reformed then. And I think it's just kind of like um, I guess once it's kind of like all of the dust has like kind of settled, and you can kind of, because for 10 years after like a band splits up, you don't even want to listen to the music, and then you start listening to it again, and then you're like, fucking hell, I'm 40 now. Um, Better do it now, or else I'm gonna be 50 and no one wants to watch it bunch of 50-year-olds. Uh, and Yeah. No, it was good. I mean, it's you know, I mean, the Paddingtons never really stopped playing, but you know, they kind of like play a gig every like 3 years or something like that, and then they did this like tour, and I know they got yous on it, and they got us on it, and it was just like um uh for me as well. It's just like these are like the first ever gigs I've like played like since I quit drinking, like sober. Um, and it's like a whole new experience, really, because to be honest, I can't really remember um the first time round, really. Um, well, I mean, I can remember bits of it. I remember bits that were photographed and written about, but I don't actually ever really remember do like much of it happening. Um, and yeah, but it's you know, everyone kind of seems to be like getting back together and like touring. You've got all people like Block Party and stuff like that, and it's just like there kind of seems like a real kind of demand for, you know, that kind of thing where are people are going to gigs like now for different reasons. They're going to gigs because, you know, they want to go and listen to, you know, like uh, a band they used to like 20 years ago. Whereas I think before, I think a lot of people, myself included, would just go to gigs. I don't really, apart from if it was like the Strokes or someone like that, I don't ever remember like going to a gig because I really wanted to see, you know, a band. It was just like something to do on a Tuesday. Um, and Yeah, so I think you've got, and what's weird now is you look out and you're like, you look out into the crowd and you're like, why is everyone really old? Um, and then you realize it's just like, oh yeah, like they didn't used to be old. No, neither did I. Um, and they've got old as well. And you can't, you know, kind of like expect to look out and see a bunch of like 17-year-olds again.
You must have done the Ross on the Cribs tour. I imagine it's quite a new wave of fresh faces on that.
Yeah, it was really interesting actually. So I sort of during that tour, I sort of caught up with people that I hadn't seen for 20 years, like after the gig and stuff. But yeah, you're right. It's there's like a whole new generation who are just like discovering the Cribs and seeing them live for the first time. And I've done other bits and bobs over the years as well, and it's definitely changed. Like the gig going punters, like it's quite nice to see. Like there's families going, like there's because now like our generation have got kids or might have kids, or depending on, you know, what's happened. But so you see like mums or dads with their sons or daughters there and stuff, and it's really yeah, it's a kind of it's a different atmosphere in some respects, but we've all changed anyway, so it's like it's going to be different. But yes, I thought it was great. Yeah,
I think the Cribs though are like kind of quite a unique band because they are from that era, but because they've never had like a huge album, it's like they've had to like kind of put the work in on every album that they've released. Do you know what I mean? It's not like don't want to use the Strokes again as an example, but the Strokes will release an album and not tour it, and they will come over, play a gig, play, mostly old songs and a couple of new songs, and it's like they're not really getting any new fans. But
I'm not sure about that, Dave.
What do you mean?
I went to the Roundhouse, saw loads of young people there last time I saw them. Well, last when I went to that gig particularly, I noticed a lot of young people there.
Yeah.
I saw them in Sheffield 2 weeks ago, and they played in, I think it was like attached to the student union. I don't know if it was the actual student union. I don't know why, but probably that had an impact on it. But there was a fair amount of like clear students there.
That's for the Cribs, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, but
like the Kooks, they're playing at the biggest ever gigs this year and stuff. I think there is a big wave of new fans.
I think so. Like, so quite a good mates with Andy from Razorlight, and they're sort of, I guess they're in the Kooks League, aren't they? So they you go to their gigs and it's just families now, including like quite small kids with their mums and dads watching. It's like a whole family thing. Sometimes, like festivals wise and stuff, it's definitely a different crowd than it was in 2004 or whatever. But the Cribs are again quite unique, maybe in that like they've got fans who are like really like fanatic as well. Like some of their fans will just go to every gig on the tour whenever they play the UK. So they're from that perspective, I suppose. What are they like? I don't like that word, but a cult band, I suppose, or whatever.
Yeah.
They're it's kind of sweet spot, aren't they? Where they're like bigger than us guys, so they've got a definite cult following, but not big enough to be kind of ruined by getting too big and all the baggage that comes with it. They've kind of like remained in that kind of sweet spot almost. So you can just see them kind of going on forever in there, in that kind of moment.
I've got to say, also, it's really interesting, like hearing everyone to like kind of swap stories about it, because I do think, I think there's like quite a lot of factors in play that like enable this sort of thing to happen. But I do think there is precedent for it. I think going right back to the 60s, and to be honest, when we were all coming through in the early noughties, a lot of the bands that our generation were into, because you get to an age, right, where you look back, you're about 20, and then every 20-year-old sort of looks back 20 years because you've lived long enough to have a sense of history in the past. And at any given point in time, an 18 to 25-year-old is going to be romanticising the past, usually the time around when they were born. So like that happened with all those bands from the early 80s. And those early 80s bands that weren't as big then went on to have a much bigger following in the wake of that new revolution. So like Echo and the Bunnymen, The Cure, Buzzcocks, all these bands that I saw, Kate Bush even, they came back and they started playing to like new generation, which was like elder millennials. And because venues were still pretty shitty then, and sound systems were shitty, and like there wasn't a lot of health and safety, people couldn't take their families, they couldn't take their kids. Whereas now there's much more kind of inclusivity, there's more festivals, there's more opportunity for people to go and see a band during the daytime and like take their wives, take their kids. And it's a bit more like, I think promoters and venues realise that they're sort of missing a trick if they don't make it more inclusive. So I do definitely think back then there were loads of bands that were reforming in the wake of bands like us who were really into that sort of music, and they were all like releasing albums and stuff, and some of them carried on, some of them didn't, some of them were just not very good, they couldn't come back to it. But I do think it's interesting. I do think like ever since the mid-60s, every 20 years there's been a look back, and it happened in the 80s, it happened in the noughties, and I think it's kind of happening now. It's just that cycle of you get bored of what's like sonically happening, people forget about guitars and drums because they feel like antiques, and if you leave it long enough, you'll get the current like Gen Alpha that are like 17, 18. It's been a minute since they've seen a band, they're like the generation above them, like Gen Z, just aren't interested. They just weren't interested in bands, right? So they've just not been exposed to it. And so when they go to like the Windmill in Brixton and to go and have their first drink and they see a band play, it's like, fucking hell, this is amazing. This is like visceral, and it's feral, and it's so vital. And it's like, it's just not some It's not some cunt with a laptop on stage, you know, singing with like a backing track. It just feels different, you know, but it doesn't feel different. It's just the same old shit, really. I mean, and that shit's good. It's good shit. But if you haven't had it in a while, it feels new. And I think that's what I find really interesting, like just socio-economically, like the forces are in play. And there are a lot of old people at gigs because old people have got disposable income and kids haven't got any money, and you know, there's nothing, you know, it's expensive, you know, it's like £6 or £7 for a pint, you know, a crap pint of beer. So you wouldn't do it, would you? I wouldn't do it if I was young and had no money. I probably wouldn't go to a gig because it'd be too expensive.
No, yeah, I mean, young people don't tend to leave their bedrooms. Apparently, they just all fight each other on computer games online. They don't even take drugs anymore.
What's it coming to, eh?
I know.
All right, well, let's crack into the songs then. Is it The Streets first? Too Much Brandy, aptly named. Is this your choice, Rob?
This was my choice, yeah. Yeah, I went for just two big guns, basically, Strokes and The Streets. And I guess with The Strokes, it was like, you know, day one for everybody in terms of bands, and it's been said a million times, but I couldn't kind of move away from it. Whereas The Streets were like, there wasn't a guitar in sight, and that was the best thing about it. And it was like, I suppose this has been said as well, that musically the noughties weren't really the whole noughties. They were like 2001 to 2006 or something. So the two songs I chose were early on, sort of 2003-ish, I think. And I guess both The Strokes and The Streets had already done one album, one wicked debut album. So there's like that element of, I hope this isn't just like a one album thing. I hope to God both of these bands just like deliver another one and it becomes a kind of thing in my life. And it did for both The Strokes and The Streets. And I guess with The Streets, this song, I could have picked any song really, but it was like the language that he used just seeps into your everyday life. And there's probably like a whole bunch of people, Dave included, where it's almost difficult to get through a conversation without someone just dropping in a line from The Streets. And it's like, I don't know, it's like this kind of like language that just emerged around 2003 and has just stayed with you ever since. And this song is just like full of those kind of like mad one-liners that you repeat back to your, you know, into your mates even now, 20 years later, in a way that you just don't really do with any other bands. And yeah, it was him as well. He was just like, he seemed so sort of normal, and I don't know, I felt like we always bumped into him, and he was just like around, and he chatted about places that you knew and that you'd been to, and yeah, it was like, it was great. It was like a little kind of, you know, stepping through a little door going into his songs, and it was like half your real life, half his kind of imagined mad life, and then you kind of meet somewhere in the middle. It was great. So yeah, that's why I went for Too Much Brandy. Plus we went for a phase of always drinking too much brandy before gigs. And I don't know if it was because of this song or if there was just some weird parallel, but I remember a definite brandy phase, which is why Dave can't remember anything of the time, as he said.
I know for a fact that we started calling brandy Marlon because
of this tune, yeah.
Let's play the song then. Here's The Streets with Too Much Brandy. And then, yeah, into the aforementioned Cribs, Ross. Why this particular song?
It just had to be really like, I think it's one that stands out from the early days. It's from their first album, and it's, I remember listening to it on a tape. I think our drummer had just had it on a tape, on a cassette in his car, and it just really stood out. And it's got everything that I want in a song. It's got the it's got the hooky guitar. It's got this. It's just everything. It's just brilliant. And just watching them on tour as well. Like it's mad. It's a mad song because the crowd sing the guitar part. The crowd, as soon as they start it, they just go duh, duh, and the crowd goes da, 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 da. That's it. And then the song's away, and they could stop playing it. Then the crowd would do it. It's absolutely insane. Like, and I just think, yeah, it's such a, yeah, it's just a perfect song.
Yeah, I saw an interview with Ryan, and he said that he always writes the riff before anything, before the chorus or anything, which is like really interesting because like I think for us, like kind of like the guitar riff would be the last thing that we'd add. Like I think for me, like I'd always like write a chorus like over and over and over and over again. And if I had a catchy chorus in my head, and then you'd have to kind of fit the verses round, and then like you do the thing. And like since he said that, like
I'm not sure. I think you might be misquoting him there, Dave, to be fair.
really?
When I spoke to him, he said like he couldn't say what came first. It was like just dependent on each song.
Well, I must have heard him talk to someone else. He must be a two-faced liar because he was no, yeah, no. I probably it's probably the flu, isn't it? I'm just misremembering everything. But I thought I'd heard him say that the oh no, maybe he was just talking about men's needs, like what came first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and yeah, that makes sense because it's yeah.
that song though, like the bits that you sing are like the guitar bit, and then the other bit you sing is the woo, the woo bit. It's just bad. Like it's this. I mean, it's a total compliment, and they know that I do. But like, there's so little going on, but it's just the melody of that is just so strong.
Yeah,
that's the song.
Yeah.
I think it's. I think always think it's wicked. Like when you're at a concert and people sing the guitar solos.
Yeah.
Like I just think that's fucking class.
All right, let's play it then. Here's the Cribs with Another Number. Then on to your choice, Jason, maybe one bit of a different one people maybe wouldn't expect, but one from New Order.
Yeah, this was like, it was like 2001. It's like New Order, like again, an example of a band that sort of like, sort of came back, you know, like predominantly known for their 80s output. And they had an album called Get Ready, which I think kind of went a little bit under the radar, but there was a video to, well, the first time I saw the song, well, first time I heard the song, I saw the song because it was on MTV2, and they played the video to this song called Crystal, which is a lead single off this album. And it just fucking blew my mind because I missed the intro of it where it said New Order Crystal, and I just saw this just sick arse-looking band who were basically just like a stand-in, you know, and they were called The Killers, right? That was the name of this band. It was a fictional band called The Killers playing this song called Crystal. And I was like, this is amazing. This is like exactly what I wanted music to go, which is like go from where the Strokes was in that kind of 70s revivalism thing, but push it forward. And like Rob was talking there about the Streets and like Mike Skinner and the sort of genius of Mike Skinner, you know, like for what it's worth, A Grand Don't Come For Free is like, I think one of the greatest albums ever made, actually. It's just unbelievable levels of genius. But this song, Crystal by New Order, just blew my mind. Just like the sense of melody, like the propulsion in it, like the momentum. It was everything I loved about post-punk and Joy Division, but it was sort of sounded so now. And then I found out it was made by a load of blokes in their 40s and 50s, and I was like, what? Just kind of that fact blew my mind. But obviously I love New Order. I didn't recognise Barney Sumner's voice in it, you know. And I just loved the song, and it was like, to me it was an example of a band who were kind of their first time round, who were like elder statesmen, able to sort of like produce this sound that also was adjacent to groups like Fisher Spooner and the Electro Clash thing that was happening in New York, and it just perfectly fitted into like the whole timeline. And it was a massive influence on us. I mean, it was a massive influence on the band The Killers, who took their name from that fictional band in their music video. But yeah, it just like sonically really influenced like what we were doing, and it was a couple of years before the band sort of took off, but it remained like an ongoing influence. It was like a touchstone and almost like a template of like where that 80s sound could go to like 20 years on.
Okay, yes. Well, let's play the song, and here's New Order with Crystal.
Guys, how's rehearsals getting on? Are things shaping up well for the for the Water Rats?
Yeah.
Great stuff. And Dave, you guys you've got a new single out, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, we got a new track out. It's like it's a bit stupid, really, because it's just like it's on Spotify, and you can download it on Spotify, but then you can also buy it on iTunes. I don't know why anyone would buy it. When you can just download it for nothing. But yeah, no, we just wrote that and did that.
That's exciting. Did you record it? Did you do it yourselves, on laptops at home, or did you nip into a studio and get it done?
No, we just did it all like just did it all around Jackson's house, and
nice.
Yeah.
It was mad doing it around Jackson's, wasn't it? It was like thinking of the old days where you would actually spend all day like in a studio, and then just doing it so fast around your mate's bedroom, and it sounded exactly the same.
Yeah. And you'd end up spending what, like kind of like 600 quid for 2 days in the studio. And it's I mean, there'll obviously kind of always be like a place for kind of like, properly recorded live shit, but it's it's kind of amazing what you can do now on computers. But I was thinking about it the other day, and it's just, in a way, it's just an evolution of kind of like DIY music. So it's like before, like, I don't know, like 30 years ago, if you wanted to record a DIY album, you'd have to do it on a 4-track recorder. And now you can do a DIY album on a computer, and it's just like, I don't know, it's just a modern take on that, really, isn't it?
Well, do you want to play your new song now, Dave, then?
Yeah, go on.
Do you want to introduce it?
Yeah, this is called Flags by Us.
You were just discussing the production. It was, when I listened to it, I was quite impressed with that. Literally just a home setup, like you said.
Yeah. I think the nearest we got to actually kind of like recording like a live sound was Rob's guitar solo, where I was just like, don't think about it, just play absolutely fucking anything. And then we had this like tiny little guitar amp and just turned all of Rob's guitar pedals on, and then just turned them up like maximum on every setting, and he just like played that. It's weird as well though, because it's just like kind of like I do like kind of like 3 or 4 like kind of takes of each verse, and then like Jackson would just be like cut them up, but he's done it so well that you can't tell that it's like four separate like kind of ones with each kind of like phrase like picked out of the best of the four. Probably ruining the magic here. But yeah.
Is Gemma playing on it again?
No, that's a computer.
All right. Is she
Yeah.
playing the gig?
What?
Is she doing the gig?
No.
Oh, right, okay. Have you been holding auditions at your house then or something?
No, we've got this guy called Jamie, who was the drummer in UK Subs. He joined UK Subs when he was 19 years old, so they must have been about 40, and then he was their drummer for 18 years.
Right, did you know him or how did that come to be?
So I know this guy called Simon. And he plays drums, but he's got a band. And I was like, "Look, can you play drums for this gig?" And he was like, "Oh, I can't, man. I've like got too much going on with my band." And I was like, "Can you recommend anyone?" And he was like, "Yeah, I can actually." And he sent me this drummer's Instagram, and he's got like, I don't know, like 20,000 followers, and he's like plays in loads of bands, and he was just like send me the tracks and I'll learn them. Yeah, and that's what he does.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you're looking ahead to the gig then? Like, have you all played at that venue before? Like, why that particular venue?
I used to work at that venue. I used to be the stage manager in 2006.
Oh, yeah, I remember you saying, yeah.
Yeah. It was it's quite different then. My job was very important, was to make sure that the bands had sandwiches.
I think I remember you saying that's what made you want to get out of the music business or something.
Yeah, pretty much. I had to do the lights as well, Harry, and the lights. This is no word of a lie. Though in those days, before it had its big remake, the lights was there was one switch. You just did on and off. That was it. I used to sit like this. I'd be having a conversation, like the guy was saying, "Are you keeping time with what?" Oh yeah, sorry. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just the water rats in London for anyone listening.
Yeah,
But,
change now, of course. Change now.
I can't remember. I know we played the Water Rats quite a few times. I think I could just be misremembering this, but either Lamac or John Kennedy had a night at the Water Rats, or someone did. And I remember playing that, and Water Rats was always just like, it was like a cool like little venue, because at the time, this was before like King's Cross was like what it is now, which is just like this kind of futuristic, I don't know, like I don't know how you describe it. It's I don't like going into central London because I don't recognize any of it. It's all really modern now. But King's Cross back then, you'd go there, and that was still when it was just like pimps and prostitutes and smack and everything in between. And it was always like cool, like playing a gig there, because it wasn't like Camden and it wasn't East London. It was, it was just its own little kind of like island, like gig venue. And yeah, I always liked playing there. So we did that, and so we were basically we were speaking to two venues. We were speaking to Lexington, and we were speaking to Water Rats, and the Water Rats were just like, Lexington was were just kind of like a bit standoffish. They were like, yeah, you've got to provide your own sound engineer, you got to do all this like that. Water Rats were like, yeah, we've got a sound engineer, yeah, we got a drum kit and a bass amp, and it was just like, well, we could just play Water Rats, we don't really need to bring anything. And yeah, so we did that.
Nice one.
And I mean, there's not really like many, like kind of like 200-300 capacity venues in London anymore. I think there's the Moth Club, and then you've got the 100 Club, which I always fucking hated playing because it's like cool to be like, oh yeah, we played the 100 Club because it's got a history, but it's got a completely flat back, like, and then the stage in the middle. So like when you play, like people are stood to the side of the stage, and people are stood at the front, and people are stood round like the other side of the stage. And it's like, I know from experience, because I'd always go out when we were sound checking and I'd stand in different places and it would always sound like completely different. So, yeah, that was a no to the 100 Club. But Water Rats is, yes, and the sound there is always really good.
Cool. I mean, Jason, you must be
And the lighting, especially around 2006, the
Yeah,
lighting.
the sandwiches as well, Dave. Come
The
on.
lighting and the sandwiches, yeah. Sometimes I'd just, I'd like, before we went on, I'd just go and sit under the lighting, eat a load of sandwiches, and I think this is what it's all about.
Do you remember the butler that arrived with the silver tray of cucumber sandwiches, Dave? That was me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
remember those days. The good old
yeah,
days.
yeah.
A little apron and nothing on underneath.
Oh, you remember it better than I thought. Oh.
Yeah, I remember it.
But yeah, Jason, you must be chomping at the bit to play live again from remembering from our chat last time.
Yeah, it's like, well, because none of us in the band, stayed as like live performing musicians. Like we all kind of like ended up, working in production and like songwriting. And well, I spent a few years just like doing up houses and stuff. I just became like a builder. So I didn't really ever see. I thought that was it. Really, I thought I didn't have any interest in doing it. But then it's because I was playing in bands so young, like 11 and 12, and they were like punk bands really early on, and that's the bit, and I loved all that, and that's kind of gets into your blood really. It does affect who you are as a person for the rest of your life. So that if you think you've given it up, it's a bit like trying to give up, I don't know, smoking or booze or whatever. You're always just someone. You're always like a smoker who chooses not to smoke. That's the way I think of it. As you can never really leave some things behind, and it's a bit like that with playing live. I mean, making music is different to playing music. It's such a different art form. And once the idea got back into our heads, it was a bit like you got the bloodlust for it. It was like this kind of, you buried the need to do it, but the need was still there. And then once you give it a little bit of oxygen, you just want to do it. And then when we got into the rehearsal room, none of us could remember how we did stuff. But as soon as we like plugged into the amps and like dusted off the pedal boards that we literally just put under our beds and hadn't touched, they were like in the same configuration. Everything still worked somehow. It was just like the muscle memory kicked in, and it was like no more than 5 minutes had passed, and we were just back there again. So I can't wait. I can't wait to do it. I mean, I don't know how it's going to sound really. I don't know. I know it feels physically, it feels good, but yeah, I can't wait. It's gonna be a lot of fun for us, at least. Anyway.
Yeah, I think that's the weird thing that you forget about playing live, which I kind of like instantly kind of remember. It's a lot more about how it feels, because if you're visibly like enjoying it and into it on stage, then like it doesn't really matter if the sound isn't great. Do you know what I mean? It's like people feed off that. And I think like what we
Yeah.
used to do like back in back the first time round is sometimes you'd get about 2 songs in and you'd be like, oh, this doesn't sound good. It's like, like all the levels are wrong. And you'd kind of, the crowd could kind of sense that. But if you kind of like, just kind of like, almost kind of like zone in on yourself and forget that you're like playing in front of people and just like really enjoy it, then people like, do you know what I mean? People feed off that really. Then like, I mean, I've been to a lot of gigs, and one in particular that like sticks in my head. I went to see Interpol, and they played and they sounded exactly like the record, but they looked fucking miserable. Like looked like they didn't want to be up there. And that kind of like, it makes you think, well, I don't really want to be here either. Whereas like, you'd go and see like the Libertines and they sound like utter shit, really, like a lot of the time. But, they were like clearly into it and you'd have a much better time.
Oh, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, I think that's very true. That's very true.
Yeah.
But you take yourself so seriously when you're young. Like, and I think when you get older, you take the music seriously, but you don't take yourself as seriously in terms of like there's bigger fish to fry. I've got like like Ross was saying, some of us have, we've been lucky enough or whatever to have, to find people to share our lives with, be it like a partner or kids or whatever, and it's like it puts it all into perspective. And if the sound's a bit shit, it doesn't really matter. But for me, certainly at that time, everything mattered. Like if somebody broke a string or broke a stick, it just pissed me off. It just really angered me. And like if the sound guy, if I couldn't get his attention, that would wind me up. If like Dave was saying, if the vocal was too quiet or too loud or whatever, everything wound me up. And because I had no other compass in my life. All I did was live and breathe music, and that seems like the bohemian dream. But I think it's one of the worst things you can do is spend all day, every day making music. I think it's like when you first start up a band, it's like you're coming at it from being in school, and you actually are quite time poor. And there's loads of things pulling you in different directions. Like you've got to do your chores, you've got to take out the bins and go to school. You haven't actually got that much time, so you squeeze it in. And your life is a bit like a mirror of what it is. My life then was a mirror of what it is now, which is I don't have really any time. So the little time I do have to play music and make music, it's a lot of fun. But there was that weird period when you got signed and all you did was just the days stretched out in front of you. It was just endless making music. And looking back on it, I hated that actually, because there's more to music than music. You've got to live your life, you've got to do stuff, and you don't want to end up just a boring cunt that can only talk about guitar strings and just like guitar pedals. It's so boring doing that. And then you just got to like do your thing, like live life. And now it feels like there's way more stuff to do. And if the gig's shit, the gig's shit. I mean, I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm just going to have a good time, have fun with it, and just like reconnect with those fans. But to me, it's not about the sound or like remembering all the lyrics and not making mistakes. And it transcends all of that. Really, it's about the communal experience, without getting too spiritual. But that's what I would say is more important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find that like Ross and Dave, could we enjoy it? Like the gigs last year, was it just like a case of just enjoying it, really, not really worrying about anything?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was I was I was like I knew I had all of the songs like and everything like sorted in my head, and I was like, we're gonna play this perfectly. And then about 15 seconds into the first song, I completely missed the verse and went into the chorus. But luckily, everyone else kind of like clocked that I fucked up and carried
Is that how
on.
you remember it, Rob?
Well, I was having my own difficulties because my monitor stopped working. So I was just like, I can't hear anything. All I could hear was Gemma just going from the drums behind me. So there was probably a moment when there's not just Dave but myself. Probably everyone was like freaking out at the first song. where
That's exciting. That's what makes gigs exciting. It's like what Dave was saying about you go and watch a band and it just sounds like the record. And it's like, what's the point of that? And everyone's on click track and it's like they're running backing tracks. It's like, what's the point of this? You know?
well, we
It's
pulled
so
it
much
together
better.
and it worked. So.
Yeah, and everyone's rooting for you, and it's not about getting hit. It's about getting back up again, and that makes the gig so much more important, and it makes it special, and it makes it unique. And I think it's important. People need to lean in more to like mistakes, particularly in an age where everything is so perfect and everything is so like devoid of error. Like, you know, apparently it's devoid of error, but it's like trying to get away from that pristine thing, not getting sucked into that mythology of things needing to be like chasing perfection, because I don't know what the point of perfection even is. You know, it's like surely it's about the experience of it and just exploring what happens if we go a little bit wrong, what happens in that space, which I think makes it a lot. Now that takes the pressure off, because then you're just like, it doesn't matter now. You know, we can just like, it can just be what it is. You know, and it belongs to everyone then.
Yeah, I mean, like some bands are almost so much better. Like like I don't know if you know Television Personalities, but the charm of them is how terrible it sounds like sometimes. Which is a weird thing to say, a bit like Daniel Johnson or something like that. It's like the real charm is in the imperfection. And it's like you say, it's like I've never enjoyed a gig where I've gone and I've been like, that was exactly like the record. Do you know what I mean? It's just like I might as well have just saved my money and listened to the record. Like, you know, I don't see that. And to go slightly off topic, kind of like what now? Like what is like really like almost upsetting me is seeing young blood like embraced by all of these like proper rock stars. Young blood's not like a, you know, he's like a plastic rock star, and you know he plays to a backing track, he plays to a fucking, I think he's terrible, and I dislike him immensely, but it's like it's kind of almost like really sad now that that is considered like rock music. And the same with like Machine Gun Kelly and all of this. It's like, how are they getting away with this? Like, if we'd have done that back then, like, nah.
It was a lot harder then. I mean, there's no way, even like a lot of the social media antics that took place, you know, saying the last 5 years, we think about like people doing trend, like jumping on trends and dances, basically, you know, doing whatever it takes to get some exposure. Back in the day, that would have just been jumping the shark. And I think I'm very conflicted by it, because I don't know whether we were just shackled into this kind of too cool for school, like if someone wants to use your music on the advert, you just tell them to fuck off. It's like, I don't know. I'm so conflicted by that, because of like the world changed so quickly, so fast, so much, that I'm like, were we wrong? Are they wrong? Is it just the nature of things? You know, are you meant to sell your soul? Or should we just drop the facade and just all admit that like we're out here trying to sell tickets and t-shirts, and we're trying to like find that balance between revenue and like art? I don't know. It's like it's an ongoing conversation. But I do, Dave. I do hear what you're saying though, in terms of like why are there some artists that young people view in the same league as, I don't know, like what we might consider like seminal artists, or are they just today's versions of like Billy Idol? You know, and was Billy Idol the laughing stock in the 80s? Did anyone take him seriously? I just get so confused by it all sometimes.
Yeah, I think Billy Idol's a weird one, because he was what was his band called? Generation X, was it his band?
I can't even remember.
Yeah, I think they were. I think it was Generation X, his band, and then he basically signed a solo record deal, and then took all of their songs, and went to America, and became this thing. But I don't think not. I mean, you wouldn't get many kind of people like punk purists like saying, "Oh, I like Billy Idol." Um, Although he did have a couple of great songs, didn't he?
Well, my favourite is Eyes Without a Face, which is like very non-Billy Idol. You know, there's that White Wedding, which I think is total trash, but and that's just my opinion. But I mean, but he did some really interesting like kind of new wave stuff. But it's just difficult, isn't it? Because like Johnny Rotten in our day when we were coming through, he was like selling butter, Country Life butter, and it's like like, I don't know what I mean, maybe it's fine, maybe it's all fine. People just got to do what people have got to do, but. Yeah, I mean that's a far cry from, you know, the Sex Pistols at Manchester, you know, Free Trade Hall or you know wherever it is they played. Yeah, it's just like things are always shifting. Like our perception of like what's acceptable is always shifting, and like bands nowadays can go out and artists can go out and basically do a live PA. Like Charlie XCX can do Glastonbury and just on her own, no band. Basically, it's like. It's a kind of version of karaoke, but if the artist is cool enough and if the intentionality is there, like if what she's about isn't playing music with live musicians, then she's kind of free from all of that stuff. But
no, I do get what you mean, but I think basically what TikTok and Instagram, I don't have TikTok. I refuse to install it on my phone because it just looks like bad news. But Instagram, basically what it's done is it's turned every young band, they're forced into becoming content creators, and they're not very good at it. And so it's just, you go on their Instagram page and it's just like hundreds and hundreds of like the same fucking clip from the same song, like with something like, do you want us to play this song at our next gig? And like just to get like engagement, so people go, yes, I love this song. Like, and it's all about like fucking, you know, kind of like fucking algorithms and getting comments and likes on your fucking thing. And that's almost like, to these bands, that's become more important than actually writing songs.
And I wonder how someone like Connor, if the NME, if the NME was still in print now, and you know, and Con was like at the helm, how they would have like filtered, you know, all the new, how they would have like curated like new music now. Would they be using socials as a way of like finding stuff, or would they just have ignored all of that stuff? You know, because all the editorial commentary from our time was just people going to gigs, and there was a lot of gatekeeping, there was a lot of taste making going on, and it was a bit of a club at times, but well, for the most part it was one big club. But I just don't know how, maybe the fact that those papers, and I know Harry spoke about it before, like, you know, there's no real like, if you're young, there's no melody maker or NME type thing that you can use as a way of like filtering out the noise, because I don't know, like I lose track of like the actual stats, but it's something like 60,000 commercial releases every day are uploaded to DSPs. So it's like everything's atemporal. There's no tribalism. Like no one's listening to the same stuff at any given point. So it's like the only option you have is to just pump content out there in the vain hope that somebody somewhere sees it.
Yeah,
because there's no other. There's literally it's like no other option, and that feels quite bleak.
I think kind of whether it was a good thing or a bad thing, kind of getting the NME on board was almost like this kind of unofficial seal of approval.
Yeah, you had to. Yeah,
I remember it was just like you just had to get 2 journalists at the NME on board with your band, and you were sorted. And I remember we had the late James McMahon, who sadly passed away recently, and Mark Beaumont, and they both liked Dustin's. And James McMahon used to call me at 3 o'clock in the morning and ask if I was at any parties. That's a story for a different day. Yeah, it's like once you had a couple of NME journalists kind of like on board with you, and you'd first get like a little feature, and then you get a live feature, and then you'd get like a double page spread. And it was like, that was almost like, well, if they're in the NME, they must be like pretty decent. And I remember it was probably like my age as well. Like I remember when I turned about 19, 20, because when I was like 15, 16, I'd buy the NME religiously, and it would be like I'd go and check out all of these bands, and like I remember buying like CDs like that I had no idea what they sounded like because the NME had like given them a good review. I remember there was a band called the Parkinsons, and I had to go into HMV in Oxford Street and get them to order this album for me. And it took about 6 weeks to arrive, and it wasn't even very good. But you know, that was your way of kind of finding music, and it was almost like a benchmark. It was like if you got in an NME, you were kind of like not minted like or sealed, but like, you know, you were considered like a decent band at least. Yeah.
It would be a totally different experience though, trying to do what we did, but having Instagram and social media. Because like I realized this doing the gig that we did last year with the Paddingtons. It's like actually playing the gig is just a minor part of it. It's like everything else that comes before and after was kind of what being in a band was about. It was like, you know, the build up to it, hanging out all day, doing whatever you did, getting to the gig, driving wherever you went, and just all the fun that you had doing that. And then after the gig, just partying wherever, ending up wherever you did. Then the next day, basically starting again. And it was almost like the gig, not always, but sometimes wasn't even the main part of it. It was just like, you know, the bit that kind of held it all together and made it kind of gave you some direction.
I think that was definitely true about like being on tour, because I remember like being on tour, like the majority of your day is, if you're in like Carlisle or Northampton, it's just walking around like Carlisle or Northampton, then going back to the dressing room, see if anyone in an apron had left you some sandwiches, and then the actual gig, you playing like 35, 40 minutes, and that's like a tiny part of your day. And then like the rest of it is just, you know.
Yeah, so imagine having your phone in your hand and all day in Carlisle, instead of just mucking about like we used to. You can just imagine it's like, we have to make content, let's get everybody down here. It would just be overrun by trying to create some kind of like, you know, right, we've got a 30-second clip, we've got to maximize this 30 seconds to like get everyone in Carlisle down. It would just be like I don't know, the thought of it is just sort of takes away the thrill and fun of just all the kind of spontaneous kind of cool fun that you had being somewhere like Carlisle, you know.
And the thing is, Rob, right? Like what you're saying there is, the reason it resonates certainly with me is because sometimes it's not the thing itself; it's the manner in which it's delivered. Because bands have always had people following them around, filming them. In fact, you want that, right? Whether you're a hip hop artist or you're a big rock band, if the budget's there and you're doing well, there's going to be someone coming out on tour with you, and they're going to be taking your photo constantly, and they're going to be filming you, and they're going to cut together some kind of like live tour diary, right? But in the same way that when you walked into a studio, well, number one, you'd go to a studio, there'd be someone would be engineering, someone would be mixing, someone would master, someone would produce. someone will make the tea. And the problem is when all those things are turned inward, and it's like now you've got to do all that stuff. It's like, well, I've got to make my own tea. Well, I'm happy making my own tea, but I don't know how to engineer my record. Doesn't matter. You've got to do it. So now you're doing everything. So now you've got to film yourself. You've got to take your own photos. You've got to like pick the right filter and do all the editing, and suddenly you're doing everything, and then none of it's fun, right? But all that stuff's always existed. It's just you're doing all of it now. And so what that leaves are like a tenacious few who happen to be multi-hyphenate polymaths who can do that stuff really well. And maybe the music part of it, as you say, is just a tiny component in the overall delivery. But if the music is above that threshold of it's just about good enough, and if the other stuff as well is good enough, then you've got something. You've actually got product. But if all you've got is music now, that's just not enough, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's never going to be enough. If your music's brilliant, but that's all you've got, and you're shit at all the other stuff, then...
Yeah.
And I hate to say it as well, but like, I think one of the reasons we got signed in Japan was because of how we looked. Like I think we never really discussed it, but we kind of put a lot of thought into the clothes we wore and the way our artwork was presented. Like, you know, it was very like curated in that way, so that like when you heard the music, you kind of knew what to expect. Which is like, I haven't listened to it yet, Harry, but I know you interviewed Richard Archer from Hardfi, and like I'm not going to lie, I was never a fan of Hardfi. I didn't get it, but you know, like they managed to be like very successful without really having much of an image. They just looked like, you know, they were wearing, you know, kind of what you'd wear to go and play five-a-side football, or I don't know, maybe I'm remembering that wrong. Not five-a-side, they didn't have football boots on.
Never once saw him in a football kit.
Yeah.
It's like a Fred Perry vibe, wasn't it? Fred Perry and jeans.
Yeah. Fred Perry and jeans. Yeah, I mean that's pretty safe. That's a safe option. Fred Perry and jeans.
All right, should we dip back into the songs? On to Ross with arguably, you know, the best song you'd want to hear on a night out, The Walkman. Would you agree with that, Ross?
I would, yeah, I would. I really would. I think I should caveat this, Harry, at this point by saying that I think I got first dibs on this, and Dave was very gracious, as was Jason. We all kind of chose this song actually, which is testament to the song. So like it really stands out as one of those. I don't know, like it's a modern classic, isn't it? I think, and when you hear it on a night out, or you hear it on the radio, you stop and listen to it still. You know, like 20 odd years on. I think it's just an amazing song, and I think it's like we're in a WhatsApp group. Sorry, guys, to smash your credibility here, but we're in a WhatsApp group for this gig. And
what's it called?
Water Rats or something.
Yeah.
I thought I might have a funny one up your sleeve, Dave.
I was gonna, but yeah, I want maybe not so appropriate. But but we've been talking about this song quite a lot, you know, like because it's just such a great song. And I was thinking about it as being the equivalent of "Don't Fear the Reaper" by the Blue Oyster Cult. I don't know, that's a bit random, isn't it? But like every time I hear that song on the radio, I stop and listen. And it's also got at the end of "Don't Fear the Reaper," it's got that weird bit that it goes into, that sort of weird proggy bit. And in the middle of the song in question, I think it's 2 minutes, 11 seconds. I need to double check. I'm not a train spotter, but it goes into like a middle bit, which is just immense, which makes the other bits amazing. Sorry, that's just absolutely blown my credibility. So I'll pass over to someone else.
No, like "Don't Fear the Reaper" is a fucking brilliant song. Like it's like I don't really know any other Blue Oyster Cult songs, to be honest, but I don't think I need to. Like, that's just one of those fucking great songs. Like, White a Shade of Pale by Procol Harum. It's like, I don't know any other songs of them, but like, I would like White a Shade of Pale, I'd have played at my funeral. Like, if she'd have let me, I would have had it like played at my wedding. But we didn't. We actually found a really good like piano cover of Wave of Mutilation by the Pixies, which is like both mine and my wife's favorite ever song.
Yeah.
So she came down the aisle to that, which was great. And I remember looking out, going, "Does anyone know what this is?" And I caught Baco's eye, and he was going, "It's the fucking Pixies." I was just like, "Yeah, but I've got to like stand here, like I can't be looking at you."
It's so interesting because that song, what you mentioned, like, you know, White Shade of Pale, right? But Procol Harum and the Walkman, like Blue Oyster Cult, and even I'm a massive Pixies fan, right? And it's like Wave of Mutilation to me. Every now and again, these hard bands like, you know, like Fugazi or At the Drive-In, they come out with these songs that are so great, and you're like, for me, because I grew up on Motown, like the connection to soul music is really apparent, and like Wave of Mutilation, that vocal melody is like a soul vocal melody to me. It's almost like not R&B as such, but it's just really, it's like soul. And the Walkman, the Rat, that song it's a proper soul song, and I think it transcends production and like fashion and any of that kind of stuff. You know, there were songs like back in the day, like Bandages by Hot Hot Heat. You know, so it's a great little pop song. It's quite an elastic sort of pop song, but it's not, to me, it's not like a soul song. You know, and people don't talk about a song like that anymore. But the Walkman, even though they didn't really have any other songs like that, they sort of didn't need to, and it's like that is their Don't Fear the Reaper, and it's cool. It's fine for it to be like that, because I think that's a great reference point actually for it. It will always work because it's such a good song.
I think it's an honest song, isn't it? And you can feel the honesty and the integrity.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. It just burns through. Like there's no pretense in it. I think that's the thing. For me, that's what it is.
Yeah, definitely.
What I like as well is like every live performance I've seen of it, and even in the video, the singer, he's not performing to the crowd. He's totally like focused in on the song. Like and like it's to me, like I remember when I first heard it, I was just like, this is what the Strokes would sound like if they just kind of turned the gain up on their amps a bit, played a bit faster, and delivered it with a bit more urgency. It definitely had that kind of like vibe to it. But it was just like, I remember hearing it on XFM for the first time, and I was just like, this is fucking brilliant. There was that, which always used to get played on XFM, and one you probably won't remember, but there was a cover of Cleaning Out My Closet by Eminem, and it was the Jackknife Lee remix of it, and they'd replaced all of the hip hop with like really punk like guitars, and I should have picked that actually, because that was really good.
Still time, mate.
I remember. No, I can't go changing my mind.
I kind of wish I'd
It's a different song,
Idol's greatest hits now as well.
Say that again, Ross.
I'm thinking I should have picked Billy Idol's greatest hits as well.
Bit of Youngblood.
I just say about the Rat as well. Like I thought it was quite appropriate for like now, in that like that middle bit. It's quite sort of poignant. Like it's written. That bit says, "When I used to go out." So it's like looking back. Actually, it's almost like a story over time, which I love about it. And it's a bit poignant about now.
Yeah. It's. I mean, it's the lyrics are kind of like almost I wouldn't say they're sad, but they're definitely kind of like melancholy, and they're just delivered with this like urgency of the band. And I think it was Debs, the promoter, who said it was all about the drumming. And I went back and listened to it, and I was like, yeah, it's like it's just it's the whole thing. It's the drumming and the guitar, and just the fact that it just doesn't let up. It's like go, and then it's just like the whole song is yeah. And it's just like I really wish that they'd have like made an album where all the songs kind of sounded like that. But I mean, I guess that's like asking Blue Oyster Cult to make an album where all the songs sound like Don't Fear the Reaper. I mean, it's impossible. I think you kind of, as a band, you kind of sometimes stumble almost accidentally across like an absolute timeless banger. And yeah.
All right, well, let's play the song. Here's The Walkman with The Rat. What do you make? I remember going to see him at a festival once, and they'd already played The Rat early on. That was annoying. I think they deliberately like didn't play it last because they knew that's what people would expect, I think.
I remember I was at a festival with Rob. We were either going to see Pixies or we were going to see the Strokes, and it was a festival in East London. I'm terrible with remembering actual facts, and Future Islands played, and they played in this like tent that was probably about 1,000 capacity.
Was that Hyde Park?
No, it wasn't Hyde Park. It was somewhere in East London.
Right.
Victoria Park.
Victoria Park.
Yeah.
There you go. And everyone was just there for for that one song, and of course they like fucking played it last. Yeah, and he did his like
did he do his thing?
He did his monkey dancing, and yeah, everyone was like, yeah, that was worth sitting through. sitting through 10 pretty mediocre songs just to hear you do your
Has he got some like mad condition with his voice?
About it. That's like probably one of the most iconic like live performances of the last 20 years, like when they played that on Letterman.
I think it's 10 years old now, isn't it, that performance?
I would have thought it was older than that.
Yeah, it's sort of like, it feels like it was both quite recent and much longer, because there's something because it really got into the zeitgeist, and it keeps popping up again as what people like new like younger people keep discovering it. Like it's this vintage piece of like performance, but it's up there with one of the all-time great performances, because for most people that was their introduction to that band. I never really believe someone when they're like, oh yeah, I knew about Future Islands way before Letterman. I'm like, really? I doubt that somehow. But it was just because I was mesmerised, but because to me he looks like Marlon Brando, kind of mid-period Marlon Brando, and they're such an American band, and obviously America's in such a dreadful state, but like growing up, I'd always had such a fascination with America. It seems so exotic, and to me they ooze just Americanness, and he's so American. And that performance was again it's like a soul song, and he's like a soul singer delivering. He's like Percy Sledge or something, just like delivering it ripped from his heart.
Yeah, and it's weird because like at points he almost goes into like kind of like a heavy metal growl. For like some of the for some of the phrases, like he kind of really kind of like almost like one of those. I don't like heavy metal bands where all of the songs like they just sound like grunting. I don't like that, which is why I didn't pick one. But he kind of goes into a bit of that, and it's just like, and just dancing like a lunatic.
Hasn't he's got some mad condition with his voice, hasn't he, as well?
Has he? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I saw it recently. I think it's kind of developed into. If you watch one, Jules Holland, he's not actually singing like you'd expect. It's like he's got something going on. I don't know what it is though. Anyway,
have you heard an interview with him? Maybe he's got a really funny, like speaking voice,
like a really high voice, quite
yeah.
squeaky.
Maybe he's like, "Hello, well, basically, like I just thought I'm just gonna make my dance up on Letterman, and no, I don't know why he'd be from the northeast of England."
sounds more like Youngblood again there.
Oh god. Do you know what? Like,
oh god, here we go.
Like, I don't know the name of one Youngblood song.
Who does, man? None of us.
None of us do, yeah.
Unless Rob's going to interject there, I don't know.
I can give you my top 10 songs if you like.
Of Youngblood?
No, of course no one's ever heard. No one. I remember seeing him on the Graham Norton's show and just being like, what? I don't get where this guy fits in. This was years ago. And then he came over to the Graham Norton sofa and I was totally expecting him to behave one way, and he was just like there was, when you just like, I can't fit the pieces together to understand who this person is. And then to your point earlier, when he was doing that song, was it Aerosmith? He did that song with Dave. I was just like, hang on, this is the guy from the Graham Norton show 5 years ago who was just like this odd, weird kind of character who like didn't know how to answer any questions, or was like, I don't know, just so phony. It was unreal. It was like, someone had clearly picked his outfit and like told him what to say and how to behave. So yeah, don't worry about him, Dave. He's just let him get on with it. He's all right.
Moving on to the aforementioned Interpol, Jason. Dave said they were miserable and boring, but maybe you've got a different take.
Oh, because I saw them at Glastonbury really early on when they were playing during the daytime, and there were loads of like kind of bands in that kind of post-Strokes sort of kind of like post-Strokes like landscape, and then Interpol were like moody and brooding, and they sort of looked like they belonged from the north of England, and they should have been friends with like Joy Division and the Smiths. They looked miserable, but back then miserable in a kind of cool way. Like they wanted to be there, but they didn't really they didn't feel the need. Like Paul Banks, the singer, didn't feel the need to talk to you or anything, and he was just like, they were just doing their thing. And it was really cinematic, and also it was one of the first times I'd ever seen in a modern context a band have guitars that sort of sound like synths and keyboards, and it was really like widescreen. Kind of reminded me of like Tears for Fears or Simple Minds or something, and I just thought they were fucking cool. I thought their music was just so on point, and again, because like songs like NYC, which were like anthems to a state of Americanness that I didn't have any experience of, I was really like beguiled by that, and it kind of really sucked me in. And I think a lot of us back then, I mean, the Arctic Monkeys have sort of talked about this quite a lot, to the extent to which a lot of British people thought they were American because they was just so sucked into that American thing. And I mean, that never happened to us. We had a real firm sense of like being from, we were from Southeast London, so that was a really important identity to us. Like we were like born, bred and based there. It was a big part of who we were. We weren't in competition with New York at all, but it still allowed us to sort of like really kind of, I don't know, just appreciate it and just be like, wow, this is kind of this almost like a cultural exchange. And Interpol for me took what the Strokes were doing and took it a little bit further. And I was always a bit surprised that they didn't go on to become like a massive stadium band, actually, because they had the bones of it. It was all there. I mean, they're a pretty big band now. I think they're doing a co-headlining arena tour with Block Party later on this year, which is, that's big. But yeah, they've kind of gone on to be a little bit more under the radar. But that debut album, Turn on the Bright Lights, is just enigmatic to me.
Is that the one with? There's one song of Interpol's that I really like with the puppet that dances.
Oh, Evil, the one that starts with Rosemary.
That's the second album.
Yeah, Rosemary.
Great video, isn't
it? Yeah, it's a good. That just like kind of like songs remind you of like certain periods in your life, and that reminds me of like spending every day round our manager's house, just with like MTV2 on, or the Buzz, like hoping that they like play our video, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then it would get to about 2 a.m. and like it would be like, we're on. It's probably about 35 people watching, but we're on. And but I just really remember like that video and that song, and like, you know, thinking it was great. And another thing, and another song I nearly picked.
Should we just play this one first, Dave?
What?
Let me just introduce this one first.
I don't know what it's called.
Well, now I'm going to play Interpol now. Yeah.
Oh, right.
So let's play that song first. Here's Interpol with NYC.
Here's Interpol with NYC.
I reckon Interpol are the second loudest band I've ever seen. I saw them in Liverpool. I think it was maybe I'm trying to remember when it was. I think it might have been the Six Music thing they do, the festival, whatever. They played. It was so loud, man. And I lost my. I didn't lose my hearing, but I had that tinnitus for days after it. And then I went to see the Choral, and I kind of think the Choral, you kind of think they're quite safe. I think like a bit folky and a bit psychedelic and stuff, and that was even louder.
Really?
Yeah,
The loudest band I've ever seen live are Dinosaur Jr. And I think I'm convinced it's because I think Jay Maskis is probably about 70% deaf by now. And so they have to play live. And honestly, it was just like seeing Dinosaur Jr. like play live. It was like, how are they allowed to play this like this loud?
Oh no, it just wouldn't happen now. I mean, I remember seeing similar actually. Around the same time as I saw Dinosaur Jr., I saw My Bloody Valentine. Fuck me, like it was like 120 dB from the get go. It was like I had to leave actually after a few songs because I couldn't. The compression in my brain just kicked in. And I actually couldn't hear anything. It was like my brain was trying to like invert the signal or something, and I was like, it was so loud I had to leave. I left the Roundhouse, paid quite a lot of money to watch that gig. But it was just on, and I like loud guitars, you know, I like loud music, but it was fucking loud, man. It was like too loud. There's no need for that level of volume.
Yeah. But like I said about Jay Maskis, it's just like I mean, when we used to play, like none of us wore earplugs, and like I'm quite deaf now. Like my wife will shout something from the other end of the flat, and I will interpret it as something like completely different, like because my hearing's fucked, because we didn't know about earplugs and stuff like that, and we basically used to play as loud as we could that they could get my vocals over the top. And Toby, our drummer, was a really like loud drummer, and so I think we were pretty loud.
All right, well, did you want to play The Strokes?
Yes, I chose Under Control. This, like, I would have chosen this as like the best song of any decade. It's just like such a perfect little tune. Firstly, like the drum intro. You don't usually get drum intros these days, but if you get a good one, they're always really good. This one is like it's like someone's played Smells Like Teen Spirit wrong, and it's just come out like this, but it doesn't sound wrong at all. It sounds perfect. And it's like up until this point, it was all very that much that kind of like downward da 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 thing. And then this song pops up on the second album. It's like just sounded so different. It's just like, I don't know, we said a few times now, stuff has a kind of like soul sort of feel to it. And this one totally does. It sounds like it could be sung by like Sam Cooke or some like dude on his knees kind of thing, just like totally living it. It's like, it's not really an indie banger at all. And it's just beautiful.
Yeah, it's like it's really understated as well. It's like
Yeah.
they could have made it like sound massive, but it's just like so well written. And it's just like that, like I will defend Room on Fire until the cows come home.
Totally.
I think Room on Fire is a fantastic album, and I think a lot of people were like, "Oh well, it just kind of sounds like the first one," and it's like, yeah, but all of the songs, pretty much, like I don't know if all of them are great, but it's so good, and I nearly chose 1251
That's a wicked song. Yeah.
as my
I
song
love that song. It's a great song,
be-
man.
because it was like that was their big comeback song, and it was like such a like kind of like it wasn't like they did another like Last Night or something like that. It was just this like kind of like earworm song that got in your head, and they had that like kind of like you were saying about Interpol, they had that kind of like keyboard sound on Nick Valenzi's guitar.
Mm.
And it was just like I remember speaking to my friend Harry at the time, and he was like, "Oh, like this isn't a big comeback song. Like this is just like this sounds like a B-side." And I was like, "No, you're wrong. Like this is a fucking brilliant song." And it's like I think they did the second album absolutely perfectly. I know they went in to do it with Nigel Goldrich, and like very soon realized that no, that wasn't going to sound good. And so
I'd pay a lot of money to hear that version, the one that Nigel did. I'd
I've
pay a lot
asked
of money.
I've had long conversations with Gordon Raphael over social media, and I'm like, is there any way you can get those like recordings? And he was like, I genuinely think they've been destroyed.
Wow, because
That was more.
that's the conclusion I came to. Because I've asked, because I've got, I'm sure like we all have, we're probably at 1 or 2 degrees of separation from that group, right? And it's like they just don't exist anymore. It's like no one can get hold of those recordings.
And
Dave, wasn't that, not to fact check you again, Dave, but wasn't that more First Impressions of Earth that Gordon Raphael did?
No, no, that I was gonna mention that as well.
Okay.
He said that he went in to do First Impressions of Earth, and he said they did about 6 tracks, and he said he'd normally always carry a hard drive with him, and like kind of take everything that he'd ever recorded, and he said that like kind of he wasn't allowed to take the recordings. So
Right.
I think they were destroyed as well. Which is a shame, but I mean it does go to show kind of like what a perfectionist Julian Casablancas was at that time. He wrote every single part of every Strokes song for the first 2 albums at least. He wrote all of the guitar lines. He wrote all of the drums.
You wrote the solos too.
Yeah,
that's mental, isn't it?
Yeah, and it kind of makes you feel a bit sad watching them play it live, watching like Nick Valenzi or like what's his name, Albert Hammond Jr. like playing this thing on the guitar that they haven't written. Like
that is my one issue with the Strokes. Actually, is that I didn't like when you learn about like the inner workings of it. I felt like I was a bit duped, and I didn't like the facade of it being presented as a band. There was so much fanfare about these 5 guys who were like best mates who like that. The whole presentation was like they'd done this thing communally, and it was a communal effort, like the Ramones, right, or like Blondie, only the CBGB bands I were talking about, but. When you found out that it was the brainchild, the albeit genius brainchild of one person, I just wish it had been just Julian Casablancas, and he could have. Maybe it wouldn't have worked as well, but it should have just been a Julian record, and then eventually it could have become a band, and that would have been more genuine and less like kind of disingenuous. But like latterly, I feel like that's the one of the areas about that whole narrative that doesn't sit that comfortably with me, because Yeah, because he did do everything, but it wasn't presented. It was kind of like, and in a lot of early interviews, he feels so awkward about talking about that. Where I've seen interviews with him and Albert, and they're in Paris or Japan, and the interviewer's asking Albert questions about the guitar solos or like all the guitar tones, and Albert's like having to like defer to Julian and be like, well, he actually picked the guitar tone as well, and he wrote the solo, and it's like that. What a shit position to be in, you know.
And do you remember that Albert Hammond Jr. Single? I think it was off his second solo album, and it sounded really like a Strokes song.
Yeah, well, he's quite a few of the late like Trigger. One Way Trigger, right? That's an Albert Hammond Jr. song, that's my favourite Strokes song probably now. And that's an Albert song, and he's the George Harrison of that band. It's like, you know, he wrote a brilliant song, and I think there comes a point where like the baton gets handed on, and maybe Julian, you know, everyone goes off the boil at some point. You know, you can't always be on point.
I think really it was more like Julian Casablancas kind of lost interest in the Strokes, and so I know I think it's Angles, like he was never in the recording studio with the rest of them. He was just like he left them to it, and he was like, oh, like just record the music, and then I'll like come in record the vocals, and you know, that's like probably by no coincidence, that's like my least favorite Strokes album. And I've got a lot of time for all of the Strokes albums. They're like one of the few bands that I'll, you know, if they release a new album, I'll buy it. Another band like that, I'd say, are the Pixies, and like I'm under no illusion that there's, you know, been a massive decline in quality since, you know, kind of the late 80s when they were just writing these amazing albums. But, you know, I'll always listen to it.
I think it is quite interesting that like 20 years on, we're still talking about the Strokes, because there's probably a bit of us that maybe thought it's a thing that's going to last for a few years. But, you know, 20 years on, that band is still important, and they're still important to like kids who rediscovered guitar music. That's sort of their ground zero for a lot of it, because it's like that's like the convergence point, because through the Strokes you discover all this other stuff, and so for a lot of kids can kind of, there are certain bands you can pick that are like a gateway band.
I
suppose in some ways Oasis is like one of those
Oasis like for me, so Oasis happened when I was about 11 or 12. Oasis and Blur happened when I was about 11 or 12. And then there was just this kind of, you were like, right, okay, I like indie music, but it was like, you kind of knew it was getting worse. And I remember buying Gomez's album, Bring It On, and listening to it. And I'm like, well, I guess this is what it is now. And then I think I've mentioned it before, and I remember the NME, like they gave a front page to Kings of Convenience, who were like this like acoustic guitar duo, and you were like, oh God, this is like, I think I might like try and listen to drum and bass or something. And then the Strokes came along, and it was like all of a sudden it was just like, that was it. It was like, okay, like I think me, Rob and Toby had already been playing together, but then the Strokes happened, and it was like, okay, we can do this now. Like we've got a direction, like don't follow it, but we got a direction. And I remember like from the Strokes, I got into television, and then I got into like really got into the Ramones, and I was like, okay, yeah, like this is what we're gonna do. Like I've worked out how to write songs, and yeah, like you say, it really was a ground zero, and like you say, it may have been built on false pretenses that they were this like gang of like, you know, dudes that had all just like kind of met at CBGBs and like formed a band. When I actually heard that it was Is This It? Julian Casablancas wrote it with his guitar teacher, I don't know. I've got nothing to back that up with.
What, the Guru guy?
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
I think he had an influence, didn't he? But I don't know. I wouldn't say he wrote the songs. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, going on to your final choice, Dave. Graham Coxon. Why this song?
Just because I think it's really, it's one of those songs where it's the main riff is completely ripped off by a song called Into the Valley by the Skids. And it's completely ripped off, and it's like that Nirvana song. I think it's Come As You Are, which is just basically ripping off a Killing Joke song, but it's like Graham Coxon did it better than the Skids, and it's like I was really rooting for Graham Coxon because it was just like, I think Damon Albarn is like a fucking fantastic songwriter. He's one of these rare people who's not actually good at any musical instrument, but is a fucking brilliant like songwriter. And then I remember they released Think Tank without Graham Coxon, and I just remember listening to that album and thinking it sounded absolutely miserable. And then Graham Coxon like came out with that album Happiness in Magazines, and I remember I bought that album because I had a train journey to Leeds, and I was like, right, I need to buy 2 albums, so I bought Happiness in Magazines and Grand Don't Come for Free by the Streets. And I just remember listening to those 2, and there was about 4 songs on that Graham Coxon album that I could have chosen, but Freaking Out is just like, it's just like, that was one of those songs that like if it came on in a club, you'd instantly be like, right, this is my signal, like I can probably pull a girl to this song.
Didn't he win Young Musician of the Year? Not Coxon, Alban.
What, did he win Young Musician of the Year?
Yeah, he won it like 3 times back to back or something. Can't he play like everything brilliantly?
No, he can play everything like really mediocre.
Wow, the other people who entered Young Musician of the Year must have been really shit.
Well, I mean, how young was he?
I mean, old enough to be able to like play the piano. I doubt he was like 5. He's probably like 12.
Yeah, but I've never heard that. But like, if you go on YouTube, you can find like videos of loads of like 4-year-old Japanese kids like playing like amazing like lead guitar. So I think they should win it.
A lot of fact checking going on tonight. Before we go into the next one, got a live question come through from Ollie Brown, basically asking if all of you are going to make new music. Obviously, yeah, Mardous, Dustin's have. Are you planning to do it as well, Jason?
Yeah, I think it was like before we'd even talked about it, it was like the natural like response to like what we were doing, because I identify as like a modernist, like a mod, you know, and like the music of the Jam and like those mod bands. What I took from that was it was all about being like basically be here now, like you've got to be in the present. So if this was just like a nostalgia thing, I mean that's cool, and some people do it, and like, you know, like Madness do it. I don't know if they still do it every year, but you know, like it's like a lovely thing to do and celebrate that thing for what it is, and then you just put it to bed. But I think once we started doing it, it was like really obvious that there was still a lot of stuff that hadn't been said, and there was new stuff to talk about, new ideas to sort of interrogate, and also the idea of like what battle. It's not even like what a battle would sound like now had we continued, but if battle was starting now, what would it sound like? And that was quite liberating because we didn't have to tie it to like a sound or anything. We didn't have to say, oh, it's got to still have that hi-hat thing happening, or everyone's got to be playing 16s, you know, or going dum 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 dum. It didn't have to be like that at all. It's just like, what would we do now as people musically? And that's a really nice place to be, because those songs, I'm really proud of them. I am really proud of them. But there's lots of things I would do differently about them, even down to the nuts and bolts of how they were written. And but I'm not going to fuck with them because not because it's sacrilegious, but because that's just what it is. And if we want to start mucking about, we can do that with new stuff. So definitely, I think we'd love to be able to do that. But in terms of when that would happen and how it would happen, I don't know because we are so time poor. It's like James. The reason James is not here with me now is because he's like bottle feeding an 8-week-old baby. So I don't know
how has he done that? I've got an 8-month-old baby and we still can't get it to bottle feed.
They're just nightmares. They're just honestly, babies
honestly,
are just
like we bought 4 different bottles, and each one, like, you give it her, and she's got like kind of like 2 reactions. Well, she's got more than that. She's not like, but she'll either like find something hilarious and then throw it across the room, or just completely reject it, just do that with her hands. And every bottle that we've tried to give it, and I was like, I was saying to my wife, I was like, this is going to be a problem because she's just addicted to your boobs, and I want them back.
You're never going to get them back.
No, I'm not.
That's that now. That's done. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the trade-off.
Yeah. No. It's
just follow it. Go on there. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like when you squeeze them and a bit of milk comes out, it kind of ruins the moment.
Yeah, I should have interrupted you there. Following on from Ollie's question, he wants to know if there's going to be new albums from Mardous and Dustin's as well.
Yeah, for the sake of argument, yeah, new album. Yep, and it's going to sound like Youngblood.
Youngblood cover album. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Yeah, we're doing some stuff as well. So I don't know if it'll be I don't know if albums aren't so important. I won't go into a long story, but we'll definitely put out new stuff.
I'd like ideally, I'd like to do like a 7-track EP, because I think like you say, like albums, like to me, like there's like albums that I absolutely cherish, like as albums, like I can listen to them like start to finish. Whereas now it's that's not the way music works. Like with Spotify, it's about tracks. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I remember Ash a few years ago. I mean, Ash have always been a band that have wrote brilliant singles, but always their albums have probably been about 7 out of 10 album. And a few years ago, they said, we're not doing albums anymore. We're just going to do singles.
I remember Tim Wheeler saying that, actually. Yeah. They were just going to just endlessly release singles. Yeah, I thought it was a great idea.
Yeah, and that's what, like, you going back to what you were saying about kind of people retrospectively probably looking back about 20 years to what music was then and then trying to recreate it. I've like thought about this like quite a lot. And if you look at punk music, right, there's a lot of bands and they've just got one single that you know. And like 7 inches, like punk 7 inches were like, that was the currency. It was like you released a 7-inch, and like punk albums, like, kind of like a good punk album is like kind of quite few and far between, but you've got kind of like these like 7 inches, like the only ones, like Another Girl, Another Planet, and you've written an absolutely fucking brilliant song. And that's exactly what it was like in the 50s, which is like, like kind of 20 years before. And then in the 60s, it kind of got like, kind of like really kind of album orientated. And then the early 70s, you had like Pink Floyd releasing these, kind of like complete like albums that you couldn't really separate, like, like the songs. And then like punk, I think kind of what they did was they looked back to like the 50s, where you would have like, what's his name, who did Great Balls of Fire. It's like he's got one song, but that's all he needs. You know what I mean? Is it Jerry Lee Lewis?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so new music. Mardous have released new music. Ross, you wanted to play one of the songs?
Yeah, we recorded this a couple of months ago, so it's not even been mastered, but just I feel a little bit like we've spent quite a lot of time looking back over the last 20 years and putting our album out properly, remastered and all that stuff, and we're sort of ready to move on. So this is one of our sort of newly recorded tracks. It's called Passerby.
Yes. And then Jason, you wanted to play old classic of yours, Tendency. Why this particular song?
Yeah, just because actually we're talking about like songs being like almost like identity signals or like calling cards, and I suppose like for us that is just the song that comes on, and within like 2 seconds people know what it is and what it means, and like it's like a snapshot of a very specific time, and not just in the general time, but in our own sort of our own career, and yeah, in the absence of anything new, it's like that is the like the intersection of all the things that worked well for us when it was going really well. I.e., just writing. I still remember writing that song in my mum and dad's living room, like on this organ, and I knew when I was working on it then, like I was like, I think this is quite good. Like quite a lot of time you don't know. You just like, I like it, but maybe it will work live. But I remember writing it, thinking, I think this is like the one that could like really like pierce through. So I never fell out of love with it, and I always felt it kind of. To me, it is actually a soul song. It totally comes from like people like the kind of Stax kind of soul recordings like approach to it. So yeah, I'm not at home listening to it or anything like that. It's just that whenever anyone asks me, it sounds like a bit of an obvious one. I could have picked some obscure B-side, but I was like, no, actually, that's the one that most sonically sounds like who we were then. And I think there's a lot of that, the nature of that song in anything new we do would carry forward, because it was kind of quite mature for us at the time, and it had the seeds and it had the bones of stuff that we would have done had we gone on and made a third or a fourth or a 10th album, So yeah, it would be Tendency.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the same for a lot of bands. I think for us, like the one song people associate with us is To the Ramones, and it's weird because it's like that's probably my least favorite song to play live, just because it's like it got a lot of traction, and it did like it kind of got a lot of airplay and got good reviews and stuff like that, but I never like thought it was like one of our best songs. And I was going to say the reason that I wrote that new song is because a lot of the political figures and political organizations that we like sing about in our old songs are completely irrelevant now. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like you're singing about a snapshot in time, and it's like, like all of the songs I've written, there's at least a grain of truth in the story. I may like kind of elaborate it to kind of make it fit better, but it's like, when we play a song, I kind of remember the person that it was about, and 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 so when we play Young Pretender, which was about Nick Griffin, who at the time seemed like this huge right-wing threat, which, like, if you compare it to like politics today, he was absolutely nothing. So yeah, so it's some songs are like a snapshot in time, and some are kind of like timeless, which I think To the Ramones is kind of that. It's a very relatable song. It's about breaking up with a girl and then listening to the Ramones and feeling a bit better. Yeah.
All right, nice one, guys. Cheers for your time. Who wants to do the promoting for the gig?
Dave, it's got to be you, right?
All right, everybody, you you gotta get. I don't know what voice I'm doing. I'll just do my voice. Yeah, Water Rats, Friday, 8th of May. Get down there. You can buy tickets online or you can buy tickets on the door if you want to risk it. Don't ask us for guest list because we got fuck all guest list. Hopefully the lighting situation will be better than when Ross was in charge. But if not, then so be it. I actually had this idea the other day where I was like, I've never once asked the lighting guy to do something, and I was like, what if I just said, just like put all just red lights on the stage, so it was all red, and then I thought, no, that might be a bit mean looking. So yeah, getting back to what I'm meant to be talking about, it's £15, which for 3 great bands is great. That's a fiver a band. You wouldn't even get a pint of beer for that. So that's like, 3/4 of a pint of beer to see a great band, and you can't really argue with that. And I know times are tough and people don't have much money, but get some money